freelancers spend half of their day explaining to friends and family that they do, in fact, have a real job. Is that true or
That was
false?
funny. I'd say that's false. I mean, maybe in the beginning it could be true if you don't have a job and you're going to family functions and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" It's like, "Oh, I'm a freelancer." But once you start to get some experience and some clientele under your belt, you're even better at kind of like promoting yourself. So you wouldn't even be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm a freelancer." I'm like, "Oh, I'm a Google Ads partner. I'm a specialist in whatever skill you offer." And it's the freelancing is almost kind of just the way that you work. But you kind of whatever you specialize in almost kind of gets risen to the top of what your role truly is, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I was gonna say, I feel like for a brand new beginner freelancer, someone that's trying to get into, that's probably extremely accurate.
Yeah,
Someone asked them kind of what they're doing, freelancing, okay, don't really have a job.
yeah,
But
yeah.
once you get those wheels under you and you build your business, then of course. Um, True or false, freelancers never wear pants during video calls. Some of these are pretty funny.
Yeah, what's funny? I would say that's false. I mean, sometimes maybe you don't have time to go throw them on, and you don't see anything down here. But yeah, I would say that's a false. But you never know. I mean, you could always have comfy pants on too. That's the thing too. It's like
Yeah,
have a
comfy
nice
pants.
top on, and then you're in some comfy pants. You're not in those constricting jeans or whatever khakis, whatever work is forcing you to wear.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Paul, for taking the time to do this interview with us, to sit down this chat. I am very much looking forward to it. You're the freelance king at Zero to Mastery, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot. I'm sure the audience is really going to take a lot away from this interview. But let me stop talking and let me have you introduce yourself. So, just who you are, what you do, just a quick little breakdown.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Letting me shed some light on my story and with everything with ZTM. But yeah, my name is Paul Mendes. I'm in the freelancing digital marketing space for around the last 7, 8 years. I went to school at University of Tampa, and then after Tampa, I went into the 9 to 5 world a little bit, and then from there realized it really wasn't for me, and then I transitioned into becoming really my own boss in a way. And yeah, and then I linked up with ZTM about a year or so ago, almost 2 years actually. And it's been a great way to kind of collaborate with other like-minded people. So that's kind of how little recap there.
No, that's amazing. I'm glad that you brought up that before you were, I guess every freelancer, I would assume that every freelancer before they actually started this freelance lifestyle where they kind of work for themselves in a way, they probably gone through a 9 to 5 system somewhere. I feel like most people in this planet probably
Mm-hmm.
have worked some type of 9 to 5. And the reason I bring that up is because I want you to see if you could touch upon kind of like before you started that freelance, what was that 9 to 5 like for you? And kind of what were the things that made you think, you know what, this is just not for me. I need to control my path, control my kind of life thing. How did that happen?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's a great question. And I think there's kind of two different kinds of 9 to 5s. At first, you kind of have like the survival 9 to 5, whether it's, just working. My first job was front desk at a gym, for example. It's just something you do to kind of pay the bills. But there's the other kind of 9 to 5, which is really that corporate salary role where you have benefits. And I always
Yeah.
thought, maybe once I get to that point that, where I'm doing what I went to school for, which is marketing, I'd be more kind of satisfied and fulfilled. And
Hmm.
the first kind of year or so on the job, it was really good because I was learning so much. I was kind of just, everything with marketing I was diving into. But then the realities of kind of just a 9 to 5 monotonous like grind started to set in terms of, you got to be at your desk every single day by 8:30 was when I had to be there. You're there till
Hmm.
5:30. You're sitting in rush hour till you get home. By the time you eat, I mean, the day's already gone. So I saw that I wanted something more. It wasn't that I didn't want to work hard. I loved working. I loved the
Hmm.
work I was doing actually, but it was really just that lifestyle, that day to day feeling like chained to a desk, and
Yeah.
working for someone else's business and someone else's passion that started to kind of get the wheels turning. And then on top of that, also the whole kind of concept of like the amount of value you put in doesn't get reciprocated. And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is, you have a salary, sure, maybe once a year, you get your annual review, maybe you get a little bit of a pay bump, But let's be real. I mean, we know inflation is running rampant. Wages aren't keeping up with the cost of living. So even with the future possibility to earn more revenue and income, I knew that it wasn't for me. So it was really those two things. It was, having more freedom and not being tied to just one physical location. And then the other thing was the earning potential. I felt very capped. Even if, like, for example, I launched an ad campaign that crushed it for the company, I didn't get any, of that commission. I was just a salary employee. So it was really those two things that started to get the wheels turning for me.
That's completely fair. I feel like you, in a way, was just looking for more kind of to control your own destiny. I know it's a little cliche sounding, but it really is kind of the backbone of the whole thing, right? It's because you're working for a company, but at the end of the day, you're just a number, right? You're someone that they can replace at the end of the day. I know it sounds bad, but in a freelance, I mean, and I'm not saying that's completely avoidable as a freelancer. We'll probably touch upon more of that later, but it's definitely like you have more control of your own life, and that makes a lot of sense. This next question I wanted to ask you is, so you experienced that office job, that 9 to 5 grind, and then when you transitioned to freelancing, what were some of those initial challenges that you got hit with? Like, what I'm assuming you had, probably it's never just walking through a garden of flowers at the beginning of anything, right? It's always a little bit more difficult than people intend it to be or expect it to be. So what were some of the challenges that you faced right away?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest challenges was even just understanding, like, what is freelancing? How are other people making this work? And just learning about business in general, and how to run a company. Because as a freelancer, you might just think, oh, I'm taking a project here and there. But the way I look at it is you are your own business. So if you're your own business, you need to understand every aspect of business, right? You need to understand how to prospect, how to get customers, how to manage them, which means, how are we going to communicate? You need to have, like, the actual skills to provide the skill that you're going to, the service you're going to offer them. And that was kind of the beginning part where I was faced with the challenge. I was like, okay, I had this idea. I knew I didn't want to be in a 9 to 5 for whatever, 40, 50 more years. I knew I wanted to build my own business and become a freelancer. But then that's where I was like, okay, well, how do I do this? I had my why I was inspired, but then that was the how. And that's why I think it's so important for anyone, even if, you're stuck in a position right now you don't like. It doesn't mean that you can't start making progress on your future. And what I mean by that is, like, even in my 9 to 5, I started to approach it like I was just in this learning mode, because I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be here forever, but you know what? Let me learn as much as I can about this business, about how they do marketing. And I started to really just try to understand how to actually make this work from, like, a day-to-day, perspective, as well as just a logistical, how am I going to bill clients? How much money do I need to cover my expenses? How much money should I have saved up before I leave this job? I mean, all of those things were really kind of a little overwhelming in the beginning. I mean, I think that's why when you link up with, let's say, someone who's done it before, right? And I mean, that's why, ZTM is such a powerful place, because there's instructors that are, they walk the walk. They actually perform, what they are teaching. And I think that's helped me a lot. So kind of linking up with some people online that were doing similar things, and, starting to see how they did it and what their journey was like. That was kind of the most challenging part in the beginning.
I love that. I really love, though, when you kind of mentioned the fact that you might be at a job that you don't like, but it doesn't mean that you can't kind of work towards the future. There's a quote that I recently heard. It's like, when you're in a moment that you don't like, it's you're going through it. You're not stuck in it, right?
Yeah.
So it's all a process, and I'm assuming it really does start from, you may not enjoy the spot that you're in, but doesn't mean you have to be there forever. So that's real inspiring to hear. Now, you said you went to school for marketing. So was that a clear, once so you went to school and then you worked a 9 to 5, correct? Do I have that? And then you went.
Well, actually, it was a little tougher than that, because and if anyone's just graduating now, they're probably going to be in the same boat. But when you graduate, even with a marketing degree, a lot of these positions, they're looking for experience, right? So it's kind of like that catch-22. So I had some internships and things like that, but I had a little bit of a challenge to actually get a job I wanted after college. And what I mean by that is, anyone can go get a sales job where, they don't really pay. They pay you a very low base salary, and it's all commission based. I wasn't really looking for sales. I was looking for true marketing, specifically
Yeah.
digital marketing, and even more specifically Google Ads, which I'm sure we'll get into. But that was one of the biggest challenges. So I actually didn't go right into a 9 to 5. I was, waiting tables. I was, working part time, trying to figure things out. And then
Mhm.
that is when I got the opportunity to start working actually part time at my 9 to 5 that ended up turning into a promotion, which then ended up turning into actual, another promotion into marketing coordinator. So
Mhm.
it was some challenges in the beginning, which then led to kind of like, a part-time position. And then they brought me on full-time.
Full time.
So that was all within a year or two after graduating. And then after I was in that job for about a year and a half, 2 years, that's when I was able to actually make that leap and go on to my own. So that's a little bit more of an in-depth view of it. It wasn't as
Mhm.
like graduated and you just get a job right
Get a
away,
job
which
right away.
would
Yeah.
have been nice, but it's
And
tough.
I think I'm finding that out more and more as I speak to more people. I have a couple friends of mine that have gone to school. A
Hmm.
couple of them went for business, and it took like some of them. Not mentioning any names, I hope they're
Yeah.
not watching, but it took some of them like 2 to 3 years to land their first job, which sounds
Yeah.
great. It sounds ridiculous, but the fact that and it sucks because you're coming out of school, you're so enthusiastic to kind of just
Hmm.
get started into this world, but I mean, you're coming out of school and they're asking for like 3 to 6 years of experience, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous. So it's definitely not as easy as I guess as one might think. Um,
And all
which
your
is
loans are due too once you graduate,
yeah,
right? All your student loans start getting due. And that was the other thing too, where it's like, hey man, you got to figure out how to make some sort of income because you got these loans coming in and the whole real world hits you too after college for a lot of people because it's like, okay, well now it's you got to build your life. So that
yeah,
was the other kind of part of it too. That's such a crucial kind of element.
yeah. It's like it's almost unbelievable how you're almost set up to fail right away after school.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate how that works, but the good thing is, and what we're seeing more in tech in specific is that it's not as heavy as it used to be about having a degree from this particular school.
Yeah.
Just tech in general, right? And it's more so about what you know how to do, your portfolio, what have you built, what can
Hmm.
you show, and your actual capabilities. First, a piece of paper that says you spent how many years here and how much money you spent there. You know what I mean? It's kind of encouraging to see that. My next question for you, Paul, is kind of I want to touch now upon how you got your start at ZTM and kind of your courses and that stuff. So
Hmm.
can you sort of how did you meet Andre first? What was your introduction to Zero to Mastery?
Yeah, so I actually had one of my initial courses was out there, and Scott actually reached out. So like the director of instructors, he
Yeah.
reached out. He saw that I was not only doing really well in the course space that I had launched for freelancing, but also that I had a YouTube presence. I was posting consistently. I had a blog. So that was
Mhm.
kind of the initial touch point there. Scott actually landed on my website, and then from there we had a couple discussions, and I just loved the whole philosophy of ZTM, and that's when I got introduced to Andre. I dug into everything he's doing, and I was like, you know what, this is like a really good fit for me, and it
Yeah.
just felt like a like-minded group of different people. Even though we
Mhm.
all have different specialties, we all have the similarity that we're really down to earth. We want to help
Yeah.
people. We're producing our own content and things like that. So that was a little bit of kind of how that introduction started. And then obviously, as ZTM has grown, I've also gotten, more involved in different things, launching multiple courses and little bites and things like that. So yeah, it's been a fun journey so far.
I always get the same response from almost every
Oh,
interview I've
really?
done. It's kind of weird how when you first get to ZTM or when they're doing the I guess the vetting to see if you're the right fit for Zero to Mastery. Um, it's weird when you join the community in our in our Discord, our just our personal instructor community or the ZTM team community. It's crazy how like minded we are.
Yeah.
Everyone's very similar in that sense,
Hmm.
which is crazy to see because I feel like it's rare, maybe because I haven't been in a situation like that, but it's a rare spot where to have these many talented instructors all kind of with the same end goal. It's really nice.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. And sense of humor is built
Yeah.
into everything. It's not this serious thing, trying to make learning more fun. I just like the whole mission behind ZTM I really aligned with. And, I really do think the future of education is a lot more kind of like what you said, right? It's not just what degree did you get, it's what can you do? And a lot of that is going to be like, even after college, yeah, I went to school for marketing, but guess what? I didn't actually have like specific skills on how to scale a marketing campaign. Like that's all continued learning, which is a huge part of, I think, anyone who's successful. They have a budget that they literally spend money and time every single year on learning, improving themselves. And I think that's another thing. I know I touched on it a little bit with, me learning on the marketing job, but I think taking courses and just, soaking in content on a regular basis is just a new norm. Even if you have a degree, even if you're, a specialist in something, that continued learning is vital, right? Because everything's also changing and shifting. There's new platform updates. And then, of course, AI, everything coming, there's always something new. So I think staying on top of it, and even if, you do have prior education, continuing to learn is just going to be the new normal if you want to, have as much success as, that you deserve.
Yeah, spot on, spot on. I feel like in this era, if you're not continuously learning, you're pretty much going to be left behind. Unfortunately, you have to. I don't want to say that you have to be super passionate about, because it's unrealistic to say that. I feel like some people aren't extremely passionate about their job, but that doesn't mean that they can't do a good job at it, right?
Yeah.
But you do have to have a liking or a ability to continuously learn and continue to sharpen your tools. Because like you said, AI, all this new stuff going on, the new technologies, frameworks, especially, in marketing, in web development, in design, there's so much things going out. It's an essential skill now. You have to be open to continuously learn and you can't be closed-minded either, right? Because it's an old way of thinking that just doesn't work nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to be it's like that whole philosophy of kind of being agile. You know what I mean? Like they used to call them agile agencies because, companies used to just move so slow. And now as things are progressing and, more and more companies are even tapping into freelance work because that gives them that agility. They don't need to, go on a month or two long interviewing process, bringing clients in the office, signing them up, hiring them, giving them benefits. It gives them a much more agile way to kind of, fill the needs that they have, which is a little bit off topic, but in a way, it's also really on topic because it's also kind of how companies are shifting, which is really interesting too, how, they're leaning on more remote and freelance and, specialized talent that may not be in-house, which I think is just going to keep happening, in the future.
Yeah, no, and there's a whole bunch of benefits for companies doing that in particular. We'll probably touch upon that later. But obviously being one of the biggest ones being that you're just kind of working with a bunch of independent contractors or freelancers that are, it's less stress on the company in a way, right? If you get the right personnel, it's a lot less stress. We might touch upon that later. The next question I want to ask you, man, is for you to go in depth on your courses. Right now on the Academy, how many do you have? 2, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, so 2 courses, and then I just launched a Bite actually as well. So one of those really condensed kind of, more.
Yeah, of course. Can you give us a quick rundown of 2 in the Bite, just of kind of what they are? If for someone that's interested in freelancing and they're trying to figure it out, imagine that you were back when you were first starting out, and just give them a quick rundown of what those courses entail, what can they expect, and who are they for, really?
For sure. Yeah. So the first one is kind of like the biggest one. So it's over 10 hours of content, ton of information. It's the complete guide to freelancing, 0 to mastery. So that's for anyone that wants to go from wherever they're at, whether they've never freelanced before or they have some experience, they've dabbled in it. Whoever wants to build a profitable freelance business, that's the course for them, because I guide them through not only the mentality that's needed and the mindset, but also the tactics. So I go over both. I go over the strategy of how to become a profitable freelancer. What's the sales process? What do you need to do? What order do you need to do things? Then the tactics, which is actually diving into Upwork, where, I'm a top rated freelancer on there. I have a lot of earnings on there, successful clients, 100% job satisfaction rating. And that is where I dig into how I got my start on Upwork and how they can model after what I did. So building a profile that stands out, how to find the right jobs for them, how Upwork algorithm works, how to optimize your profile and your proposals. So there's a ton of good information in that course. And then the
Like the
second one is
beginner's guide almost, like a
oh, sorry.
all around. No, no, sorry to cut you off, but it's almost like a beginner's guide all around how to really push and get started because you're going over theoretical and like the actual technical stuff. It's just
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And I do give some skill like trainings in terms of, oh, you can learn this skill or that skill, but it's really about just building a profitable freelance business. So if you already have a skill that you're good at, you can dive right in and get started right away. If not, you can still take that course while you're also learning what skill you want to provide, which is a really important part because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I've never done this before. Is this course right for me? I'm like, yeah, I built it as if this is what I would have wanted if, that question you asked me earlier, that year or two where I was figuring it all out, this is the course that I would have wanted. It goes over the mindset, what to expect, and then the actual tactics of doing it and some demonstrations from me showing you actual clients that I've had success with and things like that. So it's a really good kind of just overview of start to finish building a freelance business. And yeah, I think it's been really powerful.
No, that's amazing. And now on to your what was your second course?
So the second one's a consulting course. So it's kind of a branch off of the freelancing course. It's a little bit shorter and it's more for people who already do have some experience, whether that's they're a specialist in a skill set, or let's say they've been freelancing for a while and they want to get to that next level. Consulting is basically getting paid for your knowledge and your advice and your expertise. So as a consultant, you have the potential to earn a lot of money because you can charge a lot of money to either, do hourly consulting calls, or you can do like month to month consulting where you're looking at clients, whatever it is, it really depends on what skill. So that's the other thing with the consulting course. It's for all skill sets. It teaches the actual fundamentals and the foundation of how to turn your knowledge and your expertise into a consulting offer, which you can then go out in the marketplace and then make money as a consultant. So there are some similarities between freelancing and consulting that sometimes people get, a little confused. Like a consultant is a freelancer, right? But a consultant does a very specific kind of work, whereas a freelancer is more in the nitty gritty. They're working with these clients on a very like day-to-day basis, whereas consulting is more high level and you're using all your expertise from your past projects or your past employers, and you're giving value to companies in that way. So they're really good at complementing each other. And I recommend students to take both of them, do the freelancing one first and then the consulting one. And then you have a really good kind of foundation of, okay, this is how I do it. And then in the future, if I want to become a consultant, this is how I can go down that route.
Amazing. With that consulting course, is there in consulting in general, is there any limit to, I guess, the possibilities that you can consult about? Like, is it pretty much just like, is consulting available in most industries?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Because it's really like, it's pretty much anything that, a company would need advice on. So marketing is big. That's where my specialty lies. So I have a lot of experience with marketing consulting, but it goes for everything. Because let's say someone's launching a new website. They may bring on a consultant who's worked in the same industry as them to help them focus on the most important things. Or let's say someone's running a Google ad campaign and they need a consultant to come in, not someone to manage it every single day, but someone to look at it from a higher perspective, who knows what they're doing and give them advice. And then it's the same thing even with like the technical side of things. Like I'd imagine with developers and things like that, I'd imagine if someone's, wanting to create an app or something like that, they could hire a consultant who's already, specializing in app development. And then that can not only kind of save them time by not doing the wrong things, but that can help them increase their return on investment. That's the name of the game, right? With anything. So bringing on a consultant can help you avoid the mistakes you're going to make as a company, and then also focus on what is working. So that's a little bit about consulting.
Yeah, almost like you're paying for knowledge that instead of waiting to get that knowledge through fails and tribulations, you're almost paying for that service. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And the bike course, can you touch upon that one as well?
Yeah, the bite one just launched like a week or two ago. I'm excited about this one. So it's freelancing and AI, and it's how to use like tools like ChatGPT and things like that. And even Upwork now has an AI chatbot that they're building into it. And so is like every other software, I feel like. But it's just it's showing people how to use it as a tool to not, get all the work done for you, but to help you optimize what you already have going. So whether it's
Mm.
using it to optimize your profile, using it to make your proposals better and to stand out more, using it to communicate with clients more efficiently. I love using AI to help structure proposals and to help structure, different communication and outbound messages and things like that. So it's all about freelancing and AI and how you can kind of combine the two to be the most successful.
That's amazing, and that's something that Andre has preached about a lot, and especially particularly in web development, how AI really isn't the biggest threat to you losing your job, but
Yeah.
what to him, or I don't want to misquote him, but from what I've understood is that it's more so the programmers that learn how to work with AI and pretty much almost level up because of AI. If you know how to work
hmm
with this technology, it's a whole different ballpark, right? It's a whole different game.
Yeah, it
So
really is. It
yeah,
saves
not
time, right?
yeah.
It cuts down on a lot of the grunt work, and it
Mhm.
frees up your time to focus on the actual strategy and the higher level of everything, which I think is so important. Like even with Google Ads, I used to have to spend a lot of time. Let's just say, someone has a website. I'd have to spend a lot of time crafting ads and pulling it out. But with like something like ChatGPT, you can copy and paste someone's whole like homepage, plug it in, ask it for different ad ideas. That's just a quick example, but
Crazy.
it's just
Yeah.
it's a great way, kind of like you said, it's not gonna just take your job unless you ignore it. That's the way I look at it.
Mhm.
If you learn how to work with it and you integrate it into your workflows and you get better because of it, you can add more value, you can get more done in less time, you're going to have a job. But if you kind of ignore it, you do what you've always done, like we said in the beginning, things move fast and you're going to kind of get swept away really quickly from the people who are using it.
Yeah. No, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I know that you're the one I've heard the most about is your first freelancing course, the one you
Mhm.
spoke about first, the big one has is well like it's very highly reviewed and it's been very taken very well. And I know it's a huge course, a lot of people love it. So I have to ask you, do you plan on any more courses in the future? Is it just going to be bite courses that you're looking to make? Is there any ideas that you have kind of down the pipeline, or just
Yeah.
kind of letting
Mhm.
things set? What's
Yeah.
going on there?
Yeah, so right now, so I got that last bite done. Now my whole effort has been on a Google Ads course, and that
Ooh.
is the main skill that I provide to clients myself. Like I still work with clients, every day, and what that course is going to do is it's going to be similar to the freelancing course in terms of it's going to be an all-encompassing course where you can go there and you can learn about Google Ads. And for anyone who doesn't know too much about Google Ads, you may just think, oh, those are those ads when you search on Google. Well, yeah, that's one part of it. That's called the search network, but they also own YouTube. So all of
Mhm.
YouTube ads, there's Google Shopping, there's the display network, which gets
Yeah.
broadcasted to pretty much, 90% of websites on the internet. So it's really a very powerful digital marketing tool. And I'm doing my best to work on this course. It's so huge, right? Because it's a massive platform. There's so many capabilities, but I'm doing my best to keep it as digestible as possible, and I'm super excited to get that launched sometime in 2024.
Dude, that's so huge. I'm very excited to see that because I think that that may have the potential of dethroning your freelance course. Because
Yeah.
people who don't know Google Ads or Google Ad is huge. It's huge, and I've worked with or here at ZTM the kind of, I'm not going to name drop, but the people that take care of that
Yeah, I've
in
worked
house.
with them a little bit as well too. Yeah, I've
Oh,
popped
okay.
in here and there. Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, I don't know much about that. I'm not involved in that, but just seeing kind of how heavy and it's just there's a lot there is what I'm trying to say. That's gonna
So
I'm
much.
very excited to see that course because
And
it's like you said, it's gonna be
it's
in
a
depth.
perfect tie-in to the freelancing course too, because
Oh, of
that'll
course.
be my first course where I'm really teaching like the actual skill in depth.
Yeah.
So that'll be so great. Whether they take whatever one first, they take the freelancing one, then they're like, I don't know what skill, let me learn Google Ads. Or they take Google Ads and they're like, okay, well, I don't want to go work at some 9 to 5 and just be capped on my salary. I want to make as many, six figures as I can. Let me go learn how to be, a profitable freelancer. I think they're going to play really well with each other. And just a matter of, as you're probably aware, it's like creating a course is such a big undertaking. And as
Mhm.
I don't want to call myself a perfectionist, but I only want to put out like the top
The best
quality
course.
stuff. And then on top of that, Google Ads is changing by the day, by the week, right? So
Yeah.
it's also incorporating the new AI features they're releasing, and it's going to be an awesome course when it's ready. I'm just staying focused on it as much as I can.
No, of course. I bet that takes a lot of time, and
Yeah.
not just the pairing between the. I mean, what you said with the freelance, the big freelance course about learning how to freelance and
Yep.
creating that successful business, and then the Google Ads course that you're making right now. But then you also tie in that AI bite course that you made.
Yeah.
That's almost a perfect starter kit for someone looking to get into this field. If you want to get into the side of ads and controlling that, helping a company run that, you take that marketing course, you take the AI bite course. I mean, I couldn't say it better, but that's just like a perfect trio
Yeah.
almost.
You're set up. And I mean, I'm on Upwork all the time, and like that's one of the most in-demand jobs I constantly see. I mean, every
I
single
bet.
day there's dozens, if not hundreds of jobs for, start a Google Ads account, look at my Google Ads. Look, I want to get started on YouTube ads. I want to do Google Shopping. Yeah, there's so much potential with it. A lot of times students ask me what skill is good, what skill pays a lot, and that's why I'm starting to kind of focus more on providing more content around Google Ads, because that is my specialty, and not just touch on the freelancing, but also touch on the opportunity there. Because I mean, there's enough business out there for us all to win, and I think that's a big kind of misconception. Some people, they don't want to share their knowledge, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, giving people the knowledge, I think, is just my duty. After having the success I've had, it's like I want to give back. I want to give that knowledge out, but it's also like the better we all do, the more we can network with each other. And it, kind of like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Mhm.
It's not like
I love
a
that. Yeah.
secret, because, it's not an easy thing, but once you start to learn the fundamentals of it, you understand how to set up a campaign and things like that, what to look for, it puts you in the position to learn it on your own from a hands-on perspective, right? So
Mm.
that's a little bit more about it.
That's amazing. Well, I want to say something quickly about that, but the whole thing about how people don't want to share their knowledge, it's really sad because,
Yeah.
someone like you, for example, Paul, like you have a super high rated Upwork profile, right? You have
Mhm.
so many great reviews when really your focus should be forwards, right? And with that credibility and that, no one's gonna come take your spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You kind of
exactly.
laid the groundwork. I don't mean to touch upon that too much, but I just kind of find it a little funny. Some people just get stuck looking in the rear view. You're gonna crash that way. You know what I mean? You have to
Yeah.
look forward. This next section I wanna hit on is a one of my favorite sections. It's a true or false section. So I'm gonna quiz you a little bit, and shoot you just some questions. These are pretty
Cool.
simple. You should fly through this. This first one is a kind of a a personal question. Let's say it's really no right or wrong here, but true or false, is Upwork the best freelancing platform for beginners just starting out?
I would personally say true, 100%
Mhm.
true. You want me to expand on it a little bit, or is this like a quick
Yeah,
fire
you could. No,
explanation?
you can give us a quick little
Cool,
explanation.
yeah. So I would say it is, because, you have maybe two other platforms, and most people think about Fiverr. That's the other one that comes up a lot. Then you have freelancer.com, which comes up sometimes, but not as much. And I found that, especially when, we compare Upwork versus Fiverr, Upwork is where companies go to actually reach out and bring people onto their digital team. There are some projects that are just a one-off project, but a lot of times I found that you can get recurring, repeat customers on Upwork that are going to pay you for multiple projects, whether it's different tasks or like what I teach, especially in my course, is that you get clients on like a retainer package where you're offering them your services every single month. It gives you the ability to actually build relationships, build your profile, and things like that. Whereas Fiverr is a lot more transactional based. So it's not really as much about building your profile. It's more about, cranking out as many of whatever gig it is as you can. So it's, I'll build you a one-page landing website, cranking those out, or I'll do a voiceover. It's less like actually building a business, in my opinion. It's more of just a transactional website, whereas Upwork is all about building a business. And something I'll touch on real quick for anyone out there who, because Upwork does get, its fair share of hate.
Mhm.
I just want to let people know that, I went down the route when I first graduated, and, I was going into trying to start my own business. I paid for my domain. I got a website created. I paid, $1,000 to get a professional logo created. And after all of that, I realized I had wasted my time and money. You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because
Why?
no one comes to your website when you're brand new.
Yeah.
Even if you have a massive social media profile, I mean, how many times are you going to post your website and say, hey, I'm a freelancer now? Whereas Upwork, that is where, well, number one, Upwork is already paying millions of dollars, if not tens of millions, on advertising to get clients to their website. So that's the first thing. So they're already doing the advertising for you. And then number two, it's actually a marketplace where you can reach out to jobs. So you don't need to, run your own ad campaign, send people to a website, pay for hosting, pay for a domain, pay for a logo, pay for a website designer. No, you just go on Upwork as a beginner. You follow what I teach in the course, you get started, and you can start earning money like really quickly. So that's the other thing too, that I think there's a misconception about, like, oh, well, Upwork, charges you money to be on there. I'm like, yeah, but they're the one bringing all the clients to you in a way. So that's
They're doing
another
all
kind
the
of
grunt
way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great explanation actually. This next one, true or false? Upwork takes 50% commission from freelance earnings. Is that true or false?
That one's a false. It's a flat 10% now. So they used to have like a rolling scale where if
Yeah.
you made over 5,000 with a client, that got down. That got phased out, and now it's just like a flat 10%, which I think
Nice.
is actually a lot better, because I also think it used to be a 20% for new freelancers in the beginning. So, like we spoke about before, things are always changing, but as of right now, it's just a flat 10%, which, when you do the math on it, let's say you charge a client by invoice. A lot of times they're going to pay with a credit card. That's 3% fee you're going to pay. So when you really look at it, they're only really charging 7% more on top of that payment fee. And when you look at what they do for you in terms of how much business you can get, how many, clients that they can send your way, I think it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As long as it's not 50%, 50% will be.
Yeah, 50 is not good.
I think I put that in there just to mess around.
Yep.
True or false? SEO is only about integrating keywords into content.
That's false. I mean, SEO has a ton of different, kind of techniques that go into it. So yeah, that one's a false. I mean, there's a lot. There's on-page SEO, off-page SEO. There's linking back to your content, getting guest posts on other websites. So yeah, there's a lot more than just, stuffing some keywords in there.
Amazing. Next one, freelancers get to choose their own work hours. True or false?
That one's true. That one's true. You can kind of basically schedule your day and your week and your month and even your year around what you want to do. So it doesn't mean you can do whatever you want and just take off forever if you have, clients that are looking to get recaps from you. But it does mean that you don't have to go to an employer and ask for, PTO for Christmas or holidays, whatever coming up. And you don't have to worry about, oh, I only get this many days a year. You can figure it all out. And the other thing too is that in addition to, scheduling your own time, you can also work while you travel, where a lot of other jobs you can't. Obviously, you need to go into the office. So you can also do a lot more kind of like business leisure trips as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Almost like a digital nomad kind of life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can go
worker.
full digital nomad and just travel from country to country, or if you're a homebody, you can be, in your own environment, have a separate room in your house, do your work from home, and do whatever you want. So yeah, it's really, it caters to kind of what you want to do. And that's also a big kind of thing that I preach, is about the freedom. And it's even in the word, right? Freelancer, but it really does. It provide that freedom. Of course, it's at a cost of you having to put in the work and build a business, which is easier said than done. But yeah, I think it's totally worth it.
No, and I think nowadays that's one of the most sought after things, right? Being able to, a lot of people want to work from home or just don't want to work in an office. So
Yeah.
big push into that space. Next question, freelancers spend half of their day explaining to friends and family that they do in fact have a real job. Is that true?
That
or
was
false?
funny. I'd say that's false. I mean, maybe in the beginning it could be true if you don't have a job and you're going to family functions and they're like, oh, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a freelancer. But once you start to get some experience and some clientele under your belt, you're even better at kind of like promoting yourself. So you wouldn't even be like, oh, I'm a freelancer. I'm like, oh, I'm a Google Ads partner. I'm a specialist in whatever skill you offer. And it's the freelancing is almost kind of just the way that you work. but you're kind of whatever you specialize in almost kind of gets risen to the top of what your role truly is, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I was gonna say, I feel like for a brand new beginner freelancer, someone that's trying to get into, that's probably extremely accurate.
Yeah.
Someone asked them kind of what they're doing, freelancing, okay, don't really have a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you get those wheels under you and you build your business, then of course. True or false, freelancers never wear pants during video calls. Some of these are pretty funny.
Yeah. What's funny? I would say that's false. I mean, sometimes maybe you don't have time to go throw them on and, you don't see anything down here. But yeah, I would say that's a false, but you never know. I mean, you could always have comfy pants on too. That's the thing too. It's like
Yeah,
have a
comfy
nice
pants.
top on and then you're in some comfy pants. You're not in those, constricting jeans or whatever, khakis, whatever work is forcing you to wear.
Paul, I'm gonna be honest here. I've done meetings where I have a t-shirt or something on the top and the bottom's kind of just like these wacky shorts or wacky
Yeah.
pants that I shouldn't be wearing. So I gotta admit fault to that. And I'm definitely
You got to do what you got to do, right?
yeah, man. True or false, freelancing is easy money and you don't have to work that hard.
That one's false as well. I mean, I don't think there's any easy money. There's no get rich quick. There's no overnight success, right? It's like every overnight success is years of them putting it in. It's only once they actually break through that you're like, oh, okay, look, they made it. But yeah, it's like with
It
anything,
wasn't overnight.
there's no shortcuts. There's no overnight, but I think it's worth it. Kind of like just going back to it, right? It's like, do you want to put your time and effort into a 9 to 5 that can just, let you go or could move your position around or make you move where you're working from? Or do you want to put the work in for yourself? And for me, that was always a clear option. It might not be for everyone, but for people who this resonates with, I think it's important to understand that.
Amazing. Perfect responses. Love that section. It's a very fun one.
Yeah, I like that one.
We have some more fun sections coming up, but I want to ask you some more day in the life kind of general questions to touch back on. And one of those is, so you kind of spoke about your daily roles right now, which is one of them is course creation and keeping up with the ZTM community, and of course you have your separate gigs. How many of those would you say you're about 90% kind of just working with your recurring jobs or your gigs that you have lined up, or has it kind of stepped back a little bit now that you've done so many courses and also have obligations here? How's your day-to-day kind of structured with between ZTM, between your personal gigs and your personal life,
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that it allows me to touch on something that I think is really important. And it's also what I teach in the freelancing course, which is about like time blocking your day. I'm a huge believer in this because I think what you need to do in life is prioritize what you actually want to get done and what means a lot to you. And I don't know about other people, but for me, if it's not like on my calendar and on my agenda for the day, a lot of times it's not going to get done. It's going to get pushed off. So I like to use my time blocking with my calendar to fit in all three of those. So to fit in the personal time every day, to fit in my client work, and then to also fit in some, what I like to call like future projects, which is the course creation, which is working with ZTM. And then to get more specific about it, I was actually talking to someone on the ZTM Discord about this because they were asking about like working in different shifts. And I was like, I like to work in like small focused shifts. So that was the other thing I hated about a 9 to 5 was I felt that maybe for the first 2-3 hours I was focused, but then after that I was just done. I was like, you know what? I need to take a break, and that whatever hour lunch break wasn't enough to really kind of reset. And I found that too with other coworkers where for most of the afternoon, like, forget it. Once it's 4 o'clock, no one's really getting anything done, right? So to kind of bring it all back, I like to work on all three kind of those things, like I said, in each day, but also time blocking them and doing it in focused shifts. So I'm never just on the computer for 8 hours straight. I'm kind of breaking it up throughout the day. So that's a little bit of how I manage it.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's you. I feel like that's the only appropriate way when you have so many things going on, right? And you also have to, I'm assuming you probably prioritize your personal time as well. Not just, I know you said taking breaks from work, but also just doing things that you like to do on a daily basis, or just, even just going outside. Sometimes, people that I work on the computer, you work in the computer, people forget how important it is to get off the screen, man. That's
so important, man. Yeah.
Thankfully, I have I have a 6-month-old golden retriever puppy, and
Okay.
I'm
That's awesome.
constantly taking her on walks, mostly for her, but honestly, I feel like it's kind of for me as well because I just sometimes need to get away from a screen, man.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know if
she
you go through
forces you
that.
outside, right? So it's like
Oh
you
yeah,
don't
of
have a
course.
choice. And I'm the same way. Like I try to get, I think this is important for anyone, just literally anyone, but like you said, getting outside, fresh
Mhm.
air is so vital, especially if you're
So
working
big.
all day, like getting some sun into your eyes, onto your skin. I mean, especially like in the winter months, when it's getting darker earlier, that's one thing I do love to do is like if I see it is starting to get dark out, I will, whatever I'm doing, I'll put a pause. And if I haven't been outside, I'll go on like a walk around the neighborhood. And you'll be amazed at what that helps like your brain just kind of like process. Where when you
Mhm.
do come back in and sit down, you're almost like leveled up because you're like, okay, you've had some fresh air, you know what you have to do. It kind of breaks up that monotony, right? And then you're able to just kind of get right back into it. So, yeah, man, I think scheduling personal time, whether it's just with yourself or with your family or with friends or with your pet, I mean, that's why we're working so hard as freelancers is to have that freedom. So, you don't want to get burnt out and work 12-hour days. I've actually done that, and I don't recommend it because you do more harm than good when you
Mhm.
cut back on your sleep and you don't see friends and family enough. It ends up hurting you much more than if you were to kind of go about it in a more structured way.
Of course. Actually, this is a perfect transition into one of the questions I was really excited to ask you about, which is in anything in life, there's highs and lows, right? And I'm assuming in freelancing, you have times where there's a ton there, especially when you're starting out or when you're kind of in the middle of it. You have times where you're getting a lot of gigs, getting a lot of opportunities, and then
Hmm.
there's times where it's a little bit rougher. So I'm assuming someone that's gone through those periods where they're having a hard time trying to land jobs and all. Once you get that influx of jobs, you kind of don't
Yeah.
want to turn them down, right? Because you're like,
Yep.
okay, I don't know when. So how do you balance like? Paul, what would you say to someone that's like, okay, well, I don't want to go through a really bad low, so I have to jam my schedule now that I have that opportunity. But how do you balance that with, not losing your mind, not getting overworked, and not wanting to just kind of give up? Because that is a risk, right? When you're working so much and you're
Yeah.
getting all these jobs and you're kind of trying to compensate for low times, you
Hmm.
have the possibility of burnout, which is a big thing. So I wanted to see if you could touch upon what's kind of like the best practice around
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing, it goes all the way back to step one, where like you shouldn't ever cut off your first flow of income until
that.
your second flow of income is matched with it and has the potential to go higher than it. So what I mean by that is like when I first started, wanting to become a freelancer, I didn't just quit my 9 to 5 the next day and then start from zero and go, okay, well, I need a client to pay rent this month. I had, 3 months of expenses and living expenses saved up. So even if, you do reach a rough spot where maybe you're not making as much as you want, you have that buffer room to go back to the course, back to the freelance sales process, specifically the freelance math portion, which I talk about how many proposals you need to send out to land a job. And I teach this in the course. You can actually get a number down based on how many proposals you send out and how many jobs you land on average. You'll know, okay, I need to send out whatever, 20 proposals this week. So when times are slow, number one, you should never, have $0 in savings. So you have a buffer. And number two, you go back to kind of the fundamentals of like, okay, how do I even get clients? Then in your busier times, you're not doing as much as that. You're not doing as much of, setting the proposals out. You're more managing the clients you have. And then once you've gotten to a good point where you're like, you know what? I have some extra time. Let me go back into the prospecting portion of it. So it's kind of a balancing act between those two, between, hey, I
Mhm.
need some more revenue. Let me do that. The prospecting and okay, I'm kind of busy right now. Let me just buckle down and kind of crank these projects out and get them to a better spot. Because the other thing too, one more thing I'll say real quick on this is that the onboarding is usually the most intensive, right? When you get a new
Okay.
client, you're learning about them, you're learning about their company. That takes much more time than, let's say they're a long-term client and you're on month 2 or 3 or 4. Usually that initial time investment goes down a little bit as well. So as you get more experience, you'll kind of see what works best for you.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, no, what I was thinking in my head for some reason was when like a bear, right before hibernation, they kind of store up on their fuel, right? In a way,
Yeah.
Not the same, obviously, it's not the same, but what I will say is that it is about kind of being strategic and having that buffer, right? When times are good, it's not about being reckless and careless. I'm assuming you also want to budgeting and all that is very important as a
That's
freelancer.
huge.
I've
That's
learned
huge.
as an independent contractor, I've learned that budgeting is just about the most important thing I have to do
Yeah,
because
and it's what no one wants to do. No one wants to look at
yeah,
their
it's the
budget,
worst
but
thing to do, but
yeah, and I would say one too,
important.
just to add on, because I think this is really beneficial for anyone just starting out, and maybe you started freelancing and you're making some good money. Do not increase your standard of living, like just don't. Right? I think that's one of the biggest mistakes, right? Because people they start making some money as a freelancer. They're like, oh, I just made 10 grand last month. That means I'm on track to do 120 grand this year, and they go and buy a new car. They do something dumb when they're like, you know what? That's not guaranteed. That could have
Yeah.
been a really good month. And I'm not saying that to scare people, but it's just a reality. That's why, I mean, there's a crazy stat out there. I think it's like, I don't want to put the percent out there, but let's just say this. A lot of people who are earning six figures are living paycheck to paycheck. And
Yeah.
that's because they've let their standard of living rise with their earnings. Where if they left their standard of living alone, their earnings would have went up. And then guess what? In the future, they can have a much better standard of living. Whereas if they just increase it side by side, if that, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, of course, and it's something that I bet that percentage is super high because I think I've seen something like that,
I
and
think it's like 50%.
it's
We got to
something
work it out,
crazy.
but it's like crazy because even that is like, it's just so crazy, like one major expense that pops up in these people's lives and they have to dip into, savings or sell stocks or whatever. And it's like not the right way to do it.
No, of course not. Well, if I find that stat or that percentage, I'll drop it down in the description. Hopefully, it's
Perfect.
not as high as I think it is, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's pretty high. One other question I was really excited about asking you. I ask in just about every interview or sit down I do, and that's common misconceptions. Is there any common misconceptions? I know in the true or false, we might have hit a couple, but is there anything that come to mind about like common misconceptions about freelancers
Yeah.
besides not wearing pants during interviews
Yeah.
or meetings or anything like that?
Yeah, I think one of the most common misconceptions, and it's actually why, like in my course, I talk about building a freelance business, is
Mhm.
that as a freelancer, you're always working for pennies on the dollar. You're always scrambling from one job to another. You never have security.
Mm.
And that couldn't be further from the truth when you do it the right way. And the right way is building a business out of it. Like we said, right? Knowing how to prospect, knowing how to actually get
Yeah.
high ticket clients, where you're not bidding against people who are offshore and just going for the lowest amount of money. You
Mhm.
are going based on the value that you provide and the problem that you solve. So those are the two big misconceptions. The first would be that, there's not stability there. And the second would be that, you're always just lowering your price to compete with someone else. And I've seen and I've experienced it, with my own actual business that you don't have to live up to those stereotypes. You can kind of do it in a much better way if you know how to do it.
Mhm. No, that makes a lot of sense. I want to touch back upon what we spoke about earlier with kind of like avoiding that burnout. And my question is, so you say you have you slot in your different times. You have your time slotted out, for example, throughout your day. It's one of the things you're very religious or meticulous about, is what I would
Yep.
say. Um, but my question is, at the end of the day, and let's say when you're trying to wind down, when the day's over, when you've reached those time slots, is there anything that gets you to pretty much,
So
or
turn it
how
off.
do you, yeah, how do you avoid, like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say you finish the day and you get this response from a client or something like that. What do you do not to like get stuck back into work? Because
Yeah.
your work and home life is the same thing. So
Yeah.
it's the same place. So it's very hard, at least for me. Like, I've had times where I've kind of closed my computer and then I get a message from Scott or Mac.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Open back up.
especially at the beginning, I'm like, oh, I got to open this. I got to see what they said and start typing. And then I get myself caught into like another hour.
Yeah.
So,
I've
and
been
I'm
there.
still learning. I'm going to probably learn from your response right now. So what is it that you do to kind of really give yourself that like hard line or do you even have a hard line where you're like, no, I'm done. This is time for me to just enjoy my day or
Yeah.
spend time with the family, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that go into it. The first I would say is, your workspace in general is so important. I never I don't say I never, but I try to never really work in like the house parts of the house. So what I mean is the kitchen table, the couch, in your bed. Once you start to do that, your brain actually starts to relate those areas with work. So what I say is, if you have a spare bedroom, that's the best, because what you can do is once you close that door and you're done, work is done. Now, let's say something urgent comes up, like vital, and a client texts you, okay, urgent, you got to do what you got to do. You're running a business. It's not a 9 to 5 where you can just clock out. But I found that having that physical boundary of a separate room, or let's say you don't have a separate room, create a corner of your room, wherever your desk is. That needs to be your work spot. So whenever you're there, your brain knows, okay, I'm working. And then when you're on your couch, your brain knows, okay, it's chill time. When you start to blend the two, and you're working from your kitchen table, and you wake up and your laptop's in your bed, I mean, everything just starts to just become work. So that's kind of one part of it. The other part of it too is to have some sort of physical release. So I love practicing yoga. So I think after working, one of the best things you can do for your body is to just, and your mind, is to just decompress from technology and to stretch out. I mean, we're sitting on computers for way too many hours. Our bodies are not meant for this anyway. So going on that daily walk is important. But I love just practicing yoga right after I shut everything down. It's just such a breath of fresh air for your system to kind of just process everything out, stretch your body, get the blood flowing, and then from there, transition into, whatever it is, spending time with family, cooking dinner, having fun, whatever it is.
Yeah, I love the response you gave, because that's what I've been thinking the entire time. And I've actually, in the next 2 months, cross fingers, it should be moving into a much bigger apartment, a 2-bedroom, where I'm going to have a dedicated room just for pretty much a studio. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. It should be probably most likely in February. And I was thinking before speaking to you that that's the solution, because right now I'm in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment that's not big. Right. And one of the hard things is that almost everywhere I've managed to work absolutely everywhere in the apartment besides the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
So,
oh, you're not the bathtub with the,
So, and I know, and what you said is so accurate. I feel like sometimes in the living room, in the bedroom, it's just like work in home is the same thing to me now.
Yeah.
So I think that for a lot of people that are in my situation, even if it's just a corner in your house, I think that's probably gonna be huge help. And I love the thing also about decompressing, man, because whether it be yoga, I'm a big surfer, so I love to surf every day for as much as I can, just going out in the water.
Or even the gym, right? Lifting some
anything.
just gets that tension out of there, and you feel so much better after. You usually don't feel like doing it, right? Usually you just want to eat and lay down after you're done working. But I found that when you force yourself to, surfing sounds amazing too. Same sort of thing, right? Your mind and your body are just able to kind of just go with the flow. Wherever you can kind of do that, or a lot of people enjoy the gym. They put their headphones on, they zone out. You don't even think about work. It really helps you because, like you probably know, if you're just constantly picking up the computer, you don't have structured shifts, everything starts to blur together, and you're like, wait a second, where's my freedom? I'm supposed to, be a freelancer.
Yeah, and then it almost disappears right in front of you. It's a crazy thing. That work-life balance is huge. One of the last questions I want to ask you in this section is, how do you deal with, I'm assuming every freelancer has gone or dealt with a difficult client. It's bound to happen, most likely. You're the professional, so you definitely could tell me more about that. But what are the best practices? What do you do, especially for someone that needs that client? You know what I mean? Because it's easy to say it if you're in your shoes, or Paul, and you have multiple opportunities or multiple different areas that you can shift to or something like that. But for someone that really needs that opportunity or that job, what's the best way to handle that? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so I think, just to start off, a big part of this does come in the qualifying a client portion of it. And I go over this in my freelancing course because, and kind of like you said, like the freelancer may think that they need that job, right? And they won't ask the client one of the most important questions that you can ask that. I think it's the most important question, which is, how are you going to measure success on this project? If the client can't answer that question, you need to make sure that you can help them answer that question before you start to work with them. Because I've worked with clients before that have turned into, challenging clients because they don't know what they want. And there's a difference between a client kind of knowing what they want, but they need your help getting there, and a client just not knowing what they want at all and just kind of throwing things out there. So
Hmm.
you have to qualify the client and understand what they want and make sure that you're going to be able to deliver that. I found that 99% of the time, when you're able to do that, the client knows how they're going to measure success. You're comfortable with that. A lot of times they don't end up being a challenging client. What happens is if the client is expecting something different, that's when the challenges arise, right? So even just like communication style, you need to talk about all this before you hire the client. Because, for example, I'm not the kind of freelancer where, my phone number is just open for the client to text no matter what. I work via email, via structured weekly calls, things like that. Whereas a text is just for urgent matters. Whereas some clients, that won't roll with them. They're like, no, I need a freelancer who I can text or Slack anytime. So much of this, just to be honest with you, actually should happen before you start working with the client. So that's kind of something you need to work on as you're qualifying these clients and seeing if they're even a good fit. And a lot of times that'll even get rid of those challenging clients. Now, if a client you're already working with starts to become challenging, I think communication is the key. Just being upfront with communicating kind of what's going on, what's working for your working style, what's not, and just kind of being open and honest is the best way to go about that. Because the client, a lot of times they don't really know what's going on behind the scenes of a freelancer. So kind of having that open communication is also really important. So I'd say, yeah, qualifying clients and then having just honest communication can really help alleviate or even avoid challenging clients in the first place.
That makes a lot of sense. Would you say that qualifying, I don't even know if I'm using the right word, but is vetting and qualifying
Yeah,
kind of like the same thing?
100%. Yeah, because
Okay.
let's say a client wants to hire you. Qualifying and vetting them is to do the other thing, which is they interviewed you. Now you interview them, and
Yeah.
not that formal, right? You're not going to make it sound like, oh, well, I want to make sure you're good enough to work with me, but you do want to
Tell me
make
about
sure that,
yourself.
yeah, you're a good fit. Like, is this client, does it make sense? Like, are they
Yeah.
going to want more than I can provide, or is it, not a good fit for how much money I want to make for how much work they want? So it's same thing, qualifying, vetting, and that's why I also, real quick, last thing I'll say on this is that I'm a huge proponent of video calls because body language actually communicates so much, and nonverbals, communicate so much as to, is this a good client for me? Your body is going to tell you, right? It's built
Uh,
into our DNA. Like, do we
yeah.
feel threatened? Do we feel like this person, we have a good connection? And you just can't get that through Upwork messages. So if you're scared to get on a client call, I just say get over it. It's part of the business, right? Show your face. You're going to win more jobs anyway doing video calls. So yeah, a couple tips on that.
Yeah, no, it sounds like if you really are religious or meticulous about
Yeah,
the process up front, it'll save you the headaches down the line, right? So
yeah,
that if you're heavy about, taking care of making sure this is the right fit, knowing or asking the client what he wants, then that's going to save the headaches down the line if I'm
and
getting that
also
correctly.
I'll add to that. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's really
No, no, no,
important too
no.
for a beginner freelancer who may listen to this and say, I'm not going to do that. I need to make money, man. I want to start making money. Well, guess what? If you take on a client in the beginning and they give you a bad review or that job goes bad, you've just crushed yourself. Because you know how hard it is in the beginning to even get momentum once you have like a 1-star review, or you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah,
something else I teach in the course, is that your reputation needs to be protected with your life, because it is your life. It's your livelihood. It's how you're going to
yeah.
put food on the table. So you need to also treat your reputation with such a high regard. And that's why you're going to want to qualify and vet these clients, even if they're offering you money. It's like, whoa, wait, hold on. Let me make sure I can, understand what they want.
Yeah, so it's not just about the money. Although obviously income is very important. It's probably one of the most important things.
Yep.
Your reputation can definitely stop that income or could definitely hurt that income
Yeah.
if it's not kept up. So no, that makes a lot of sense. This next section I want to do is kind of go back to the some of the quick fun sections, and this is the would you rather. So I'm going to give you two
Okay.
options and tell me would you rather. Pretty basic, kind of when we were kids and we played this game kind of thing.
Yep.
Well, um, would you rather receive career advice from a traditional business tycoon or a successful digital nomad?
For me, I would say successful digital nomad, because you need to, in life, you need to align yourself and get advice from people who are in the position you want to be in, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing too, right? Like friends and family, they may have all these ideas about freelancing and try to talk you out of it, but guess what? You listen to the person who's had success and who is living the life that you want to live. So only get advice from people who are in a position that you want to be in.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Would you rather work with one big client for a year or multiple smaller clients?
Out of those two options, I would have to say one larger client. I would say if I could alter it a little, if I could work with a few larger clients or like a dozen smaller ones, always go for the larger ones because I found that the larger ones, number one, more opportunity for you to actually scale up. So if they're already a larger client, chances are you could offer them more services and skills and charge them even more. And then you don't have to manage all these other smaller clients. And then number two, it's also once you start to build these long-term relationships with bigger clients, that's when these amazing word of mouth referrals come in. Because I'm telling you, entrepreneurs know other entrepreneurs. So once you work with a client, you've had success with them. They're like, hey, my buddy has this business. Oh, I got this business for you. So I would definitely go with that one.
That goes hand in hand with just how important networking is.
Yeah.
Is people, I feel like people sometimes don't understand how like that from almost every conversation I've had, a lot of people have gotten their big break or their start off the connections they've made. It's such a important thing. And
That's
feel
how
like
I got
sometimes it's
my
overlooked.
first client. My first client
Yeah.
was a friend of a friend who let me manage his Google ad campaigns as like a small test. So yeah, man, network is so important, especially when you're just starting out, to get those first few clients, and momentum going.
Yeah, it's 100%, 100%. Next one. Would you rather have a client who gives constant nitpicky feedback or a client who gives almost no feedback until the very end?
I would say the client who gives no feedback because then I'm the one who's able to kind of reach out and get the feedback as needed, right? Because
Yeah.
having a client that micromanages is never fun. It really just isn't. But when you have a client who trusts you and they know you're there to communicate with them, I like that a lot better.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. Would you rather handle a project that's slightly beyond your current skill set, pushing you to learn on the job, or a project done multiple times before, ensuring quick completion?
I would probably go with the first one, the one that kind of pushes you a little bit because
Yeah.
any job you're going to take, there's going to be some learning curve or some unknown. And there's nothing wrong with just doing what you're comfortable with. But if you want to get to that next level in business and in life, you always have to step outside of your comfort zone a little bit and know that there's safety nets for you, right? There's always, for example, you can hire a consultant on Upwork to help you understand whatever it is you don't know. You can take another course, you can watch YouTube videos. So I always will go with that choice of kind of pushing yourself a little bit higher.
Now, I want to add something to it. If let's say, for example, that easier job that you've probably done hundreds of times, if that has a better ROI, and so a better return on investment, but less growth, would you still go with the first option? Keep it real. Just wondering if it's, or maybe even for a beginner, is the return on, or someone that's starting out, is the return on investment, should that be more of a priority than the growth that you can get from the other job, or should it be the other way around?
I would go with the growth. I just would because it's kind of what I preach. It's all about kind of building like multiple diversified, multiple different client revenue streams and things like that. Whereas if you're just doing like, because the other option sounds like you're kind of just doing one-time gigs or you're just cranking things out that you can do. That's fine, but you're always going to end up you're just on that hamster wheel, right? You're always performing the same thing. Yeah, you're getting the same thing done. Maybe you're making some good money, but if you're listening to this interview, you're still here now, you're probably really intrigued with this kind of, content. You want to build a better life for yourself. I always think you need to go where the growth potential is, because if you're not growing, you're contracting. You're never really staying the same. If you're not growing and learning more and kind of going above and beyond, you're shrinking in reality. So that's just kind of an extreme way to look at it, but that's kind of how business is. You're either growing or you're shrinking.
I'm gonna have to steal that one, Paul. That was a really good one. I have to quote that one.
Yeah, quoted, man. It's just all the knowledge I've picked up too. So I'm sure people have said that before me, but it's, passed
Yeah,
down.
no, first time I've heard it though, so I really like that one. Would you rather work at a desk that squeaks loudly every time you move, or use a chair that gives you a mild shock every hour? One of the fun ones.
Okay. So
What
I
irritates you more, a
before I
little shock or
upgraded,
some noise?
yeah, before I upgrade, I have this nice like secret lab chair now. But
It's a really
before
nice.
I upgraded, man, my first chair when I was on my budget was the squeakiest chair ever. And I'd be on client calls and I'd be terrified to move because it would make this huge squeak. So because of my experience, I have to go with the shock. I'll take the shock any day.
I'm assuming it's just one of those like when you touch metal and sometimes it shocks you, kind of. You know what I mean? When
Yeah, one of
like,
those. Or like you ever have those ones as a kid? It's like that fake gum dispenser and you pull it and it shocks you. Have you
oh,
ever
and then
seen
it
that?
shocks you. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I own one of those when
Oh,
I was a
yeah, me
kid.
too. I'm like, I don't like it, but I'm telling you, that squeaky chair is squeaky desk. I can't do it.
Yeah, I feel like that'll also just kind of kill the vibe on a like a client call or something like that, and you're just squeaking nonstop.
Yeah, and it's
You
like
can
also
hide the
like
pain
that
a little bit.
professionalism just goes down the drain if you're squeaking around. It's like, all right, man, upgrade the chair.
Next one, last one in the section. Would you rather send invoice reminders with a singing telegram or with a message delivered by a man in a gorilla suit?
That, that's a
It's
good. I don't know where you
hilarious.
came up with that one. I guess singing Telegram because the gorilla suit might scare them. I think a little bit. They may think there's someone out to get them. Whereas the singing one, you know what? I think they'll pay the invoice after they get a nice Christmas carol there.
Oh man, this is the power, guys. This is why you need to learn how to work with AI. You can make wacky questions like this with the
Yeah.
help of artificial intelligence. Oh, that's a joke, but no, but seriously, great opportunities out there. All right, man. Really fun questions there. I'm gonna move to some more impactful questions, a little bit more serious, and then I will hit you with one of the other fun sections that we have as well. Um, in your opinion, what is some of the biggest challenges that freelancers are facing today? Maybe it could be AI related. I don't know if you see anything particularly in that area, or if there's anything else. I know that there's a big talk about like the gig economy and
Yep.
and how it's shifting so much towards that. We were briefly talking about that at the beginning. Do you think there's maybe going to be a point where it's maybe too saturated? I don't know if that's kind of one of the challenges that they're facing. I won't talk too much about it. I'll let you kind of chime in and
Mhm.
see what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges is actually turning your freelancing like side hustle into a real business. Because
Mm,
whenever you start out, it's going to be a side hustle, right? You're not just going to start out and be making the salary you want. So it's really that transition from, hey, this is my side hustle. I'm making whatever, a couple hundred, a couple thousand a month to,
yeah.
okay, I want to be a successful freelancer. I want to make six figures freelancing. That's the most challenging part. And to do that, just kind of going back to what I touched on previously, you have to treat it like a business. You have to
Mhm.
have the sales process down pat. You have to know how to retain clients and how to, manage them and how to turn it into a business. So that's really the most challenging part because anyone could just, freelance here and there, but only the select few can have a lot of
Mm,
success when they actually focus on it. And I don't mean select few as like it's a small amount, but when you look at how many people are dabbling in it and how many are truly crushing it, that is who you want to be. The ones who are really crushing it with freelancing, treating it like a business. And it's everything we spoke about, to be honest. It's the time blocking, it's the process, it's the, learning and staying up to date with what's going on. When you kind of combine all those together, it helps alleviate the biggest challenge, which is turning it into like a full-time endeavor.
yeah, no, that's I feel like that's the biggest one because it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows right from the beginning, and it's probably going to take a very long time to make it a profitable business. So I could definitely understand that. Next one is, how do you think like the perception of freelancers has changed throughout these last few years? I want to say this last decade has been huge for freelancing. It's
Mhm.
when it's really been taking its push. Um, do you think that a lot more companies are starting to? We spoke about the gig economy and how that's starting to change. Do you think it's starting to like for bigger companies? They're starting to see things a little differently. I know that it's probably not going to change as much when you're talking about a company like Facebook or Google.
Yeah.
these companies that are workhorse companies, huge, massive companies, and they have teams for just about everything. But for smaller companies and kind of medium-sized companies, do you think that that vision has changed, that they're kind of more comfortable going for a freelancer to take care of these different opportunities?
Yeah, and to kind of touch real quick on your last question, I didn't get to the other part where like, do you think it's going to get too saturated? I don't think it's going to, because, and going back to the current question, because more and more companies, like you said, not your Fortune 5, well, even a lot of the Fortune 500, but all of these other companies that are starting to realize the power of remote work and, Upwork and things like that, they're, instead of in-house hiring for a lot of these positions, they're now resourcing talent on Upwork and remote talent. So what that means is, while more people may be getting into freelancing, which is saturating it, there's also much more companies, and even big companies. You'd be surprised like how some of these huge companies actually do hire freelancers. So that's one of the misconceptions actually, is that they actually do. More and more of them are bringing on remote talent. And that's because they get the benefit of, they don't need to pay benefits, right? That's a little fun there, but they get that advantage. Big one. They don't need to pay benefits. They don't need to pay a full-time employee. They don't need to have a workstation for them. They don't need to pay for all the subscriptions that, there's, insurance, tax, all this stuff that having an in-house employee costs them. They can get rid of so much of that just by hiring someone on Upwork. And guess what? A lot of times they're going to be getting even better talent, because like we said, someone in-house, if they're working a 9 to 5, maybe they're putting in 3-4 hours of productivity. Most people, not even that. So you're paying people for wasted time. So a lot of these companies are going to keep piling into it. And I think Upwork is going to just keep growing and growing and growing. And instead of just being a place to go get a freelance gig, it literally is a marketplace that is matching this remote talent with the people hiring for it.
Of course. No, that I love that. This next question is kind of pushing back to what we spoke about earlier, which is setting yourself up right from the beginning. And I know that you talk about the importance of well done jobs and good reviews and great feedback, right? Is in freelancing, is there like, do you have to have this might sound like a really novice question, but I'm gonna ask it.
No, you're good.
Do you have to have like a body of work portfolio, or is it just these reviews from the people that you worked with? Can you touch more upon that? If so, how important is the actual body of work that you can show?
Yeah, so it's kind of like that catch-22, right? To get a job, you need to have experience, but to get experience, you need to have a job. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit like that. And that's why in the course, I teach about what's called like trial clients. So, if you're watching this, you want to learn more, dig into that. I actually have a whole kind of process to how to get your first trial clients. But really just think of it as, you do need to get a few clients in the door. And then just with like a couple clients, that can turn into a good review on your Upwork page. A good, by review, I mean, the rating and the actual testimonial. And you can then turn that into a case study. And a lot of times people think a case study is like this big like sheet of paper and the big booklet of just, it's not. A case study can be as simple as like, hey, this client needed this. This is how I did it. This was the results, right? So building case studies, they live on your Upwork profile. Those testimonies live on your Upwork profile. Those ratings go into your job success. So all of that does start to build into kind of getting those first trial clients. And then that is where you have, a little bit of a profile now to go out there and to start getting other clients. Because that's the other thing I love about Upwork is, while let's say you do pay to upgrade, you can hide your earnings, but I love leaving that public, because that is the truest thing there is. I mean, this is how much you've earned on the platform. So once you start to get some momentum, clients are like, oh, okay, they're not brand new. They have a couple jobs. That opens up the door to a lot more opportunities. And then same thing, once you kind of, get even more, now you've made a couple thousand on the platform, that opens you up to like the high end kind of side of the platform where, clients are looking for people who have made at least X amount on Upwork.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Like promised, the next section, we are doing a rapid fire. So this is as quick as possible. This first one, I already know your answer, but we'll start Upwork or Fiverr?
Upwork on that one. Yeah.
Solo freelancing or team collaboration?
Um, for me, I'd say solo freelancing, but I have nothing against kind of team collaboration. I think team collabs is better if you want to go like the agency route, things like that.
Okay. Okay. Long-term contracts or short-term?
Long term, 100%.
Actually, I'm gonna ask you something about that. So
Yeah.
what's a common long-term contract? Like, can you like give me an idea of, because I have no clue what to think about a long-term contract, as in like how long is an average long-term contract and how long is a short one? Like,
Yep.
is a short-term
Yeah.
contract like how
Yeah. I
many
mean,
days,
so in the
weeks?
beginning, and once again, not to sound like a broken record, but I do go over this in the course. But in the beginning, you don't want to go right after long term, of course. So
Yeah.
because you have to, like I just spoke about in the last question, you need to get some of those reviews and build your profile up. And that can only happen from shorter term work. But to answer this question, usually short term work is anywhere from, 2 weeks, a month, maybe 2, 3 months. And long term, I'd categorize anything 6 months to a year or longer. I have some clients I've been working with now for like 6, 7 years, like since I started freelancing. So that is a long-term client, multiple years where you're able to keep fulfilling the value that you're providing. But a long-term can vary for different people. But yeah, I'd say short-term is anywhere from like a week or two to a couple months.
Okay, and then long-term generally from like 6 and up, 6 months and
Yeah, I'd
up.
say anywhere from 5, 6 months and up. I would consider that like a long term, because long term is really a client just saying, "Hey, we need someone. We want to hire someone remotely." That's really what they're saying, in a
Mm.
sense, right? Whereas short term is like, "I have this thing, I need to get it done," and that's
Yeah.
why also I like long term, because there's so much opportunity for recurring revenue there. Whereas short term, you do the project, you do all the onboarding, you do all the hard work, you finish it, and then a lot of times it's like, okay, it's done. You got to go back to square one. Whereas a long term,
Start all over.
you get them on board and they're with you. So
Oh yeah, no. There's definitely I guess positives and negatives on both end, but at the beginning it's important to kind of just get those wheels turning and get as
yeah,
many clients as you can. I'm assuming those short terms is kind of what you're looking for right at
yeah,
the
and having
beginning.
both isn't bad too. I do both as well. I'll have long term and then bring on a couple short term ones that I know I can do well on, and maybe a short term one. Once you get good at this, you can see what short term ones have the ability to turn into a long term contract. A lot of times they're not going to just come out and say, "Hey, I'm looking to bring on a full time digital marketer." They're going to say, "Hey, I need an audit of my account or something because my current agency isn't doing what they said." So there's also a way to kind of reverse engineer who could really be a long term client. So there's a little hidden gem for you.
Wow. That has to come with experience though, with so
Yeah.
many clients that you've dealt with, you know. Last question in this section. This is actually a good one because I know you like both of them. So email communication or video calls?
I would say email communication, I think, is the most efficient, because I love video calls as well, but I think there's a time and a place for a video call. It's for collaboration. It's for going over things like that, like what's going on, Whereas email, I think, is just so efficient to update clients. And another thing I'll say is with email, this is a little hack. I love using Loom. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Just, you can
Yeah.
record your screen, a screen share. So I've eliminated, I think this week I got like my little Loom recap, but I think I've eliminated anywhere from like 80 to 88 meetings this year because I've
Wow.
sent like 5, 10 minute video clips. So I love email communication, adding in Loom clips. And then when video calls are needed, 100%, it's a needed thing. It's awesome. But a lot of times I think an email communication with a video can get so much done and eliminate like an hour-long meeting, you know?
Yeah. Would the answer be the same if you were kind of thinking more in the consultant space? Um,
Consulting space would probably be more
Video?
Probably more video calls, I would say.
Yeah.
It really just depends, because to be honest, it's kind of a nice blend of both. I've found. I try to stay away from like text, because I find that, if you're off the clock and you're getting all these texts from clients, it's hard to live your life, really. So I like to
Yeah.
keep text as like urgent matters, like, hey, something's breaking or we need to get on it. And then email is like, more of the day to day. And then the video calls, I would say, is like a weekly thing. So I don't know if I answered it or I kind of, skirted around your question, but it's
No, no,
hard
you
to pick
answered it.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for some reason when you brought that up, it also reminded me that I've heard of people also I know I think I met one or two people that do this, where they actually have like not a very expensive, but a like a cheap work phone, a work just intended for clients,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
or a phone just intended for clients. And I don't know if that's a good thing to do or a bad thing necessarily, but I know that they one of the buddies that actually does that, he literally has that on from his like the time he's working, and
It
when
shuts
he's
it.
not working, it shuts it down.
Yeah.
There's no because he does not like giving out his personal number, and sometimes at least he's had to give out a number. So
Yeah. Another thing
I don't
too
know.
with that is you can create like a Google Voice number too, which is pretty
Mhm.
cool. So you can create a free Google Voice number, same area code as you, and then you can use that to kind of like if you don't want to give your personal number out. And it's the same thing. It has all the functionalities as a phone number. It just, you need to have a phone number to create that, of course, but it's like a
Yeah,
secondary number you can have. You download the Google Voice app, you can text from it, call from it, everything. So I also like that. That's a really good option to kind of
nice.
keep things separate, right? You can shut notifications off for it or whatever. And that way your personal text line is just for, friends and family.
Yeah. What does Google not do?
And
It's
yeah, they do it
ridiculous.
all,
They
man.
do everything.
Even the Google Gemini, that's a big one. Their Chat GPT competitor that just got
Yeah.
released like last week. It's everything, man. Hopefully they don't get
Man,
broken up anytime soon. 'Cause it's nice having it all under one umbrella right now.
yeah, yeah, that's also a big thing, right? They're getting so big where it's almost there is a possibility of that.
Yeah.
Um,
But you still got TikTok and some other big players out there that kind of are still taking a chunk of the market but yeah, we'll see how that
yeah,
plays out. Interesting.
definitely. Well, man, Paul, I'm very grateful for you spending the time with this, having this conversation. I've learned so much, and I'm sure a lot of people have. We're about to wrap it up. I just have one or two last questions for you, and the first one is kind of going back to when you were first starting out. And I know that you said your courses are perfect for some. If you will, like, if, for example, if you had those courses when you were starting out, that would have been the perfect situation.
Yeah.
But is there any piece of advice that, with all the experience and all the knowledge that you have now, that you could give yourself back in that time, or someone that's starting out? What's that one piece of advice that you would give the beginner to cap it off?
Yeah.
This can be very in depth. This can be very easy, and it just really it's up to you. What's that one piece of advice that you would give?
I would say get really clear on your purpose, right? So some people
Mhm.
call it your why, your purpose, whatever it is. You really have to get super clear at why you are doing this. Why are you going to go on this challenge? Why are you going to embark on this journey to be a freelancer and to create a business? Because the
Mhm.
clearer you can get on your purpose, the clearer you're going to get with how intentional you are about getting there. So what I mean by that is, not every day is going to be an easy day, but when you know your purpose is to have freedom in life and to be able to provide for your family and your friends,
Yeah.
you know that that's worth it. And okay, I need to schedule my day out because I'm aligned with my purpose. If you're not aligned with your purpose, it's going to be very difficult. And it doesn't have to be like some charitable thing. It could just be making money. I want to make enough money where I'm comfortable. If that's your purpose, keep that like on your computer, on a sticky note, whatever it is, because the more
Mhm.
aligned you are with your purpose every day, the better work you're going to do and the closer you are going to get to it. So many people just are kind of going through life, in my opinion, just kind of aimlessly. They're going through their careers aimlessly. They're doing the least amount of work they can to make the most money, and that's not really aligned with their purpose a lot of times. So I would say if you can kind of get your why just solidified, that's going to help you so much. And it's something I've kind of crafted for myself over the years, and it's helped me so much.
Oh man, did you a bit off topic, but did you ever see The Simpsons? Were you a big? Did you ever watch
Yeah, I
any of
love
The
The
Simpsons?
Simpsons. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, cool. So there is there's a like you can find pictures of it or the actual clip of it, but there's a clip of Homer at the plant, right, that he works at.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
nuclear. Yeah.
yeah, the nuclear plant, and then he has a ton of pictures of his little daughter. I forgot what her name is. Maggie.
Maggie is.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Maggie, but all over the plant, and it says something along the lines that this is why I do it.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and
Wow.
I think his boss said that, or Homer. I think in this, I'm completely going off topic, but I think Homer
Right.
left the job because he was trying to work at the bowling alley, which is his dream job, and then his daughter, so he had to go back to the boiler plant or the nuclear plant, and his boss told him he's never gonna leave here, or you'll never leave here again. And he changed that to like that's his why. So
Yeah, no, I love that.
It connected so well because knowing your why changes everything, right? It's so vital. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be your kid. It doesn't have to be something so meaningful. Sometimes,
Yeah,
like you said, it could be about the money, but it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer.
yeah,
For those who haven't watched The Simpsons, go give it a shot. It's a great
yep.
show, Hall of Fame show. And last thing, man, where can our viewers find you? I know you said you have an active YouTube channel, so I'm definitely going to link that down below. But if you want to just throw out your social medias, whatever you're willing to share, feel free. If you want to plug anything in, now's the time.
Yeah. So really, YouTube I think would be the biggest. So Paul Mendes on YouTube, you can link it below. I have a bunch of videos in the works, so I'm really excited. 2024, going to crush it. Ton of content for everyone. So YouTube is really big for me. And then the other thing is profitablefreelancer.com. That's a website where I have a blog on there. I also put my videos on there, and I have some other cool content for anyone that's looking at making more money as a freelancer. So my YouTube channel, my website, profitablefreelancer.com, and then of course my ZTM courses, right? My 2 courses on there, and the Discord community. I am active in there for people who need help with freelancing, or they're taking the course and they have questions, or they want to get their proposals reviewed or their profiles reviewed. Such a valuable resource that ZTM has created is that private Discord community. So yeah, those places you can find me.
And it's huge. For those that don't know, that community is huge. You can find people from anywhere in the world. It's ridiculous.
And it's a positive
nice
place, man. It's like a good vibes only, no negativity, which is hard in today's world. You open social media, so much negativity, everyone's outraged, this and that. I mean, you go on ZTM, everyone's bettering themselves, they're learning new skills, they're bouncing ideas. It's where you really want to be, I think, in this kind of day and time. Oh, nice.
That's a baby right there. She's ready for her walk in appearance. I don't know if that'll be on screen for the podcast, but if it is, there's my doggy. But Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're
She's
good.
all hectic today, man. But
Ready to go on her walk.
yeah, she's ready for another walk. But thanks, man. And I really appreciate you spending the time with us and doing this interview. And I hope we get to have another chat down the line.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it as well. It's been a great time talking to you.